We are back and ready to kick it off. Match number 1 of 6 of the day, and it's going to be che0nsu versus SamuelTsao. And again, che0nsu has been looking fantastic this season at 10-2. If he makes it 11-2, maybe even 12-2, that is just an incredible performance across the board.
Yeah, he's basically looking at this point to not really secure his first place because he's already done that. It's basically outclass Hunter Race, I think, is his game plan at the moment. Because if he can end the season at the best Grandmaster full stop, at least in terms of win rate across all regions, he will be a very, very happy chappy and have high expectations going into the playoffs next week. First of all, of course, he has to be able to take out SamuelTsao. But as we've been saying, SamuelTsao has looked, while a couple of weeks ago I was starting to see something flicker in his gameplay, I was liking a little bit of what I was seeing. Honestly, after last week's performance, I think I have to just start saying at the moment, he's not a top 4 player, in my opinion, in the group. I could definitely say there are other 4 players who are more deserving of playoffs than him. But 2 more matches here can absolutely turn that around. If he's playing some inspired Hearthstone, I will not be sad at all to see him go through.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, the group is pretty tough. We've got che0nsu doing as well as he is, and then you add the likes of, che0nsu, Surrender. Like players like this doing extremely well and have had fairly consistent performances across both seasons as well. Surrender, obviously the winner of Season 1 in Asia Pacific. It's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, SamuelTsao will make it. It's like, well, it's going to be tough, and it's not looking too good so far. On top of che0nsu, obviously just playing, I think. Maybe che0nsu has just played the best overall. We don't, I am sure che0nsu has made mistakes, right? Don't get me wrong. Everyone makes mistakes in games of Hearthstone. But I think che0nsu is the player that stuck out the least for anything I can even remember him doing. Whereas other players have maybe just done some more egregious mistakes that have stuck in my mind a little bit more.
I'd say it's probably a tie for me between him and Surrender. I think they've both been playing very, very strong Hearthstone. And it was only really a rough couple of starting weeks that let Surrender down from being first seed, I think.
Well, let's get into game number 1. And che0nsu on the top, on the Control Warrior. SamuelTsao on the Quest Shaman. And again, I think general opinion is it gets pretty much it's in the bag for the Quest Shaman, as long as the play goes reasonable.
Yeah. Very strong matchup, I think it's fair to say, for the Shaman. But the games where Shaman has absolutely run away with the matchups so far in Asia Pacific have been when the Warrior has missed their early game, because they are able to get a whole bunch of minions on the board, which usually leads to a strong Barista Lynchen or getting a very good bounce with Bulk Slosher, and then the value just starts coming in absolute spades. But here for che0nsu, he does have a respectable early game. He's got cards he can play out in the form of course, Harrison, Devastator, and he's got a decent amount of removal as well. So I think, at least in the early game, che0nsu has ticked all the boxes so far. Yeah,
and especially because SamuelTsao right now doesn't really have any of that value generation. There's no good battle cries coming down. Like, SamuelTsao doesn't really care about damage to face at the moment, but on the other hand, he has to play something this turn. He can't just pass and let che0nsu gain and control this game.
And it's an interesting matchup that we get to start on this one, because this is kind of the matchup I was actually thinking most about when you pay respect to the picks and bans from both of these players, because che0nsu went for the Shield of Warrior, knowing that this was in SamuelTsao's lineup, which is generally considered a very poor matchup. But I wonder if because of the deck construction for SamuelTsao, che0nsu likes his chances a little bit more, because there's an Earthshock in there, which is obviously a very low value card. There's a Giggling Inventor in there, which is generally, I think, considered more of an anti-mid-range or aggro card than anti-warrior. I'd rather have another Former Champ or the kind of spicy new tech of Stormbringer as well.
Yeah, if you're gonna be if you're forced to be the warrior, then you may as well play against this version, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now, che0nsu has the Brawl, Armadillo. There's the options in the next couple of turns, and the fact that he doesn't need the Brawl yet, I think the field is feeling pretty comfortable right now. With this Harrison coming down, and obviously drawing him cards, and just being able to fight back this board, suddenly the mutate wasn't as high impact. It actually just got dealt with without even really needing removal.
Right, but I still think that was incorrect from che0nsu, because he double traded the Restless Mummy into a 5 health safeguard, whereas he could have gone 3 from the first half of the Mummy, then the Weapon Swing, Harrison to take out the 0-5, and then use the second half of the Restless Mummy to take out the Life Drinker. whereas now there's just an extra 3-3 on the board, which is even worse than it originally seems, because it's not just a 3-3, it's a 3-3 that can be bounced and can be put back in hand with Barista Lynchen, and is terrible for che0nsu. So I think, like, honestly, just a bit of autopilot play there from che0nsu. I don't really know of any reason why you wouldn't clear it off there.
Do you think he just feels safe enough? I guess there's no major reason not to.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm just trying to think, like, maybe he's just like, yeah, just play more stuff. Great.
Make you
then I'll brawl
better.
it. You know, like, I think che0nsu might feel so far ahead, and again, I'm not saying it's particularly right or wrong.
That's fair.
But it might just be like, I mean, like, look at these plays. che0nsu's probably like, this is great. You just add into the board, into a brawl. I still have a weapon, and this is just a bit of a nightmare for SamuelTsao. And sorry, che0nsu's not even gonna need the brawl yet.
It's a fair point, and it's not a strict mistake by any stretch of the imagination for che0nsu. It's just that my perception of the matchup is that I would like to protect my health total above pretty much everything else. That is a very high priority for me as the warrior, to keep that armor total nice and high.
I guess it was just literally bounces, right? Because the minion itself, it either hits him or it hits him. You know what I mean? Like 3 damage happens.
But it's cleared off the other way.
No, I agree.
Okay,
so that what I'm saying is, it's less the minion and more the potential bounce that's the problem. And I don't know. Maybe you just didn't care. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Now, though, the Armageddon buffed, or buffing, should I say, onto the Warden. He's looking pretty good. It doesn't really do anything, does it?
I mean,
It's
this
like,
hand is doing absolutely nothing at the moment.
And it is unfortunate for SamuelTsao. However much we say, you know, he's not been playing as good as che0nsu. This isn't really a massive fault in himself, right? He's missed tons of his early game that could have been 100 times better. But you've got to say, if he even... Well, okay, so with this build, he is going to have a worse matchup versus Warrior.
Yes.
That's just true. So there's some element of, well, if you think you might run into Warrior with this, then it's going to be harder. But all I'm saying is SamuelTsao's opening hand has been pretty trash.
Yeah. And I think, even though I was trying to justify che0nsu's pick, I think it probably has less to do with the Shaman than I'm making out. Because even with this build of the Battlecry Quest Shaman, I think SamuelTsao is in a pretty good spot in the matchup overall. I still like his chances. Because Earthshock is not even that bad of a card. If you can hit like a Ziliax magnetized onto something.
Buffed Warden, maybe.
Sure. I mean, it's something at least, right?
The problem here is SamuelTsao's just drawn.
He's one draw away from getting something really good though. Just a... I guess it's pretty much mainly just Novice Engineer at the moment that's the really good one for him. But if he hits any of the lackey generators, that's pretty much it. That's
pretty
much
fine.
it. Yeah, Cable Rat.
He generates
Slurper.
2 lackeys and can still Wasp, for
Yeah.
example. Like, it's pretty solid.
Mutate wouldn't be the worst card in the world either, to get one of these moves rolling.
Look at this, though, the fact that che0nsu still hasn't had to play a Brawl. He has Warpath Plague, Brawl, Dynomatic. Like, SamuelTsao's just not going to be allowed to play this game.
That's right. But this is where I'm going to try and learn my lesson, because I feel like we've been in this situation many times for the Warrior, whether it's against this Shaman, or whether it's against a Hunter, or even Zoo to an extent, where it looks like the game is over. They have board control, but they don't close out the game is the problem. Even with this board of 2 7/7s, SamuelTsao can probably find a way to trade into one of them in the next few turns to take it out. And from that position, che0nsu is struggling to actually end the game. It does look particularly bad at the moment for SamuelTsao, which is what leads me to think more so that it is a very rough spot for him. But I'm not going to call this one over at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you because I've been not really wanting to see Warrior for a few weeks now, because I just don't think the deck is as good as people think it is.
Yeah.
But for me, it's all just about the lack of generation. One of the few things I think this deck does extremely well because I don't think this Shaman deck is good at many things. I think it's good at a couple of things. One of them is just card generation, resource generation. But SamuelTsao hasn't any of it, which is must be so unlikely at this point with only 18 cards left. Like top 12 cards of his deck have not been generation at all. So that's unfortunate. But if he had it, then I'd be like, oh, there's always a chance if you have it, because, you know, one good draw into a Shudder Walk and then your hand's full.
Yep.
And then you just keep playing the game.
That's it.
But also with him just committing Barista, it's like...
He kind of had to, because...
I know, and he probably did have to, but I feel it's one of those, it's one step forward that's going to lead you into 2 steps back, because without Barista now, does one draw do enough?
Yeah.
I think it had to be a good draw, hero power, card, Barista, and go nuts. I think that's what happened.
I like this a lot from che0nsu as well. The swing of the weapon, I think, goes somewhere to remedy the situation I was talking about of not closing out the game quickly enough. Because now for che0nsu, he is closing out the game quickly. He is going for lethal as quick as he possibly can, which I think is absolutely spot on.
He has, what, 18 damage on board?
Disgusting.
And look at it, it's just bad draw after bad draw for SamuelTsao.
Yep.
Quest Adventure would have been absolutely fine. Explorer, sorry. At any point earlier on in the game would have been fine to even good, right? Even if it was like the turn before the quest, so you just, I mean, that would have been exceptional, but just so you can't hero power it or get double draws, you know, and all that rubbish that you obviously can't do. But just now it's like just another worst draw in his deck, maybe the worst actually. Because the 2-mana 2/3 do nothing, I think might actually be the worst card in his deck.
Pretty much. Do you reckon in Wild you'd ever play the other Shaman quest to keep your questing explorers active? Because then you can go hero power for double activation on the questing explorer.
Someone would. That's my answer. Someone would.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Not
Imagine
an intelligent person.
Imagine if all the cards they've announced are coming back from Wild are just all the quests.
Oh god.
Double quest. Let's.
Please.
Half of your opening hand is just 2 quests. You're like, well, this is terrible.
Brilliant. I can mulligan it away and fucking questing explorer every game. Increase my chances of finding it.
There you go. It's a guaranteed mulligan card. Jeez.
Oi, oi, oi.
Well,
Yep, that'll do it.
gee, that's a small smile from SamuelTsao.
That was a,
sorry, buddy. That's like one of the worst draws I have ever seen in Shaman.
That
ever.
was nothing. And I have to be honest, I wasn't actually looking when the mulligan came in because I was busy looking at the deck list at the time. But yeah, I don't imagine there was really anything that SamuelTsao could have done. Like, if you're looking at the actual outcome, there was pretty much nothing he could have done. Maybe there were plays that he could have made without the information of what his next draw would be that he could maybe have improved on, like saving the Barista Lynchen. But even then, I think he probably made the right call that he was so far behind, he had to get the body on board.
It's one of those things where I think his choice of Barista was fine, because you are literally just saying, I either play this and maybe I win.
Yep.
If I hold it, I have a good chance of winning if my next draw is great, but if it's not, I probably just lose. Yep. So it's one of those, you know, halfway option or a high risk, high reward option. And SamuelTsao went for the more average outcome, but unfortunately for him, did not get it. But che0nsu leads the series 1-0 in a very straightforward game 1. Is game 2 going to be like that? We don't know, but we're going to find out after the break.
We've created a new home for all things Hearthstone Esports for both desktop and mobile users. From the homepage, you can find the latest articles, scores, and VODs. And from the navigation bar, you can find so much more. Here's how it works. Under the Grandmasters tab, you can view competitor profiles. Here you can see a player's top classes, recent decks, and watch their most recent series. You can also access the standings from this tab to help you understand where each player is in terms of playoff contention or relegation. On the schedule page, you can check the dates and times for every part of the Hearthstone Masters program. This includes the full calendar of Masters qualifiers, Masters Tour event pages, and the weekly schedule for Hearthstone Grandmasters. Looking to try your hand at the decks the pros are using? Simply click the eye on a Grandmasters match to see submitted deck lists. From here, hit the purple Copy Deck Code button and open Hearthstone to your collection. Then, create a new deck and simply answer the Create from Clipboard prompt in the affirmative. Finally, the News tab will show you Hearthstone Esports news exclusively. Dive into interviews with your favorite players and check back every so often to see what you've missed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the tavern.
We're back and ready to get into game number 2 between che0nsu and SamuelTsao. che0nsu took a very straightforward win, I would say, over SamuelTsao with the Warrior against Shaman. Just showing that, you know, if the Shaman can actually make some good get some good card draw, get some good generation on the go, then it's going to be pretty dumbfounded when it goes up against Warriors. What, just curve, I guess?
Yeah, straightforward in the way that paint going from wet to dry is a fairly straightforward process, I suppose you could call it, as there was absolutely nothing, we believe, that SamuelTsao could have done. But a matchup coming up now that is a little bit more explosive, I think it's fair to say, with the Priest up against the Warrior. Still, I think, one of the closest to 50-50 matchups that we have here in Hearthstone at the moment, despite it being a relatively one-sided metagame,
right,
where most of the matchups feel winnable on all sides. But this one definitely feels like there is a fair amount of counterplay on both sides, assuming that both players get themselves a reasonable hand.
Yeah, there is, and a lot of that I feel like comes down to, as you would imagine in any matchup with Priest, like turns probably like 2 to 4, I think, maybe 2 to 5, and that's mainly because of the rush minions that Warrior has access to. A lot of the game, I feel, comes down to whether the access is there for the mummy, or whether the Priest player plays around certain health and certain attack values to say, oh, either the mummy can't trade itself off, or things don't die to the mummy. So, for example, Tolve, instead of buffing 2 minions to good health, you'd buff 1 minion to high health to make the mummy not punch through. So we'll see what happens. If che0nsu wins this game, he goes 11-2 in Grandmasters with 1 more match left. If SamuelTsao wins this game, he continues to fight in this series and for his chance at top 4.
SamuelTsao got a pretty dreamy hand here already with just the Town Crier and the Weapons Project, because that, of course, allows you to take out a whole bunch of 3 health minions, which is a pretty common breakpoint for Priest, of course, with Tolve, Injured Blade Master, Northshire Cleric, infamously as well. It's a perfectly reasonable starting hand, especially with 1 mummy picked up. What's better than 1 money? And 2. Or a Zilliax. That costs 2.
It's kind of the same. Oops. Tolbe coming down now. He's going to give that opening for the nice weapons project if SamuelTsao wants it, but I can't imagine him not wanting it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd kill any minion that Priest plays.
See a minion, kill a minion.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
che0nsu could have played an Elven Archer and I would have kill it. Like, I'm still afraid.
Plays Doomsayer. It must die.
Yeah.
I will
That
kill
thing's
it.
got 7 health. If that gets buffed and attacks me, I'm dead. Imagine.
Shield slam.
Priest plays shit.
On an empty
Doomsayer silence on 2. Are you ready for this?
Are you a genius, Raven? Is that the nuts?
Just a turn 2 7 health minion. Look, I was right about Griffin Tamer because that one tweet I saw.
Would you?
I might be right about Doomsayer as well.
I know that this is
Sick
like
in the mirror.
definitely the best version of Priest at the moment, but like if they were ever to nerf some of these cards that meant the current combo build was not applicable anymore, I wonder if like Silence Priest would ever take up the mantle. There's some pretty strong Silence synergy cards in Standard at the moment.
It's probably just not good enough, right? Because at that point you're playing more of an on-curve / mid-range deck. And if that's the case, well, there are other decks I think that do better than that. Because a lot of people tried Silence, because there's the 4 mana one, right? That's like Silence and make a copy and stuff. That's
insane.
a good card, but you need... The problem is there aren't enough low-cost Silence cards that are worth it, or Silence targets. Which means that it's good if you draw the exact 1 to 2 cards you need in the early game, but if not, you're in trouble. Just like che0nsu feels like he is now.
That's it. SamuelTsau's decision here to keep his Restless Mummy in hand, of course, means that Amit can be dealt with easy as that. I think it was a very nice play there to go for the Shield Slam instead of the Restless Mummy with the coin. And of course, che0nsu knows this. He is definitely expecting a Restless Mummy to come down, which is what makes him not play Amit. Because it would just die. So instead, like a lamb to the slaughter, here comes Wild Pyro.
I'm interested now to see, because of one Samdi, whether che0nsu is actually just going to say, I'm going to make a turn 8 play of Amit 1-drops. You know, and really go that
Very
far
possibly
ahead.
is leading to it. Yeah.
I see a dark future.
In the light's name.
I guess it was a little bit too quick forward. With the Pyromancer being just eaten up by the weapon, he, I don't think you could really have afforded to wait that long, I guess. Because SamuelTsao is developing onto the board, and rightly so, I think, as well. So, Plague is a board clear, of course, here, should SamuelTsao deem it necessary. But the problem is, Whirlwind Plague is a very strong turn that he wants to set up for, I think, coming up.
I think
So we can afford to just hold it back for this.
I think just the mummy's good enough, right? I guess he could Zilliax if he was doing it this way. He could have just put,
can hold me.
he could have put 2 mummies in the swing into the Amit to kill it, and then put the Harrison into the Light Warden to put it to 2 health, and the Harrison only takes 1 damage.
I think I probably would have preferred that.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is slightly better around Nefset Ritualist, because you don't want to kill off your minions, making it super low, and then have it boosted back up, I suppose. It was kind of complicated, because also we could have seen a Whirlwind at the end there, which would have actually allowed for a clear on the Light Wood, which is like the safest play, but then you don't have Whirlwind.
It's weird, isn't
Plague.
it? It's weird.
Very weird.
Look at this. Somehow, che0nsu's worked his magic, and he has the board, which I was very surprised was even going to happen, based on what his previous turn looked like facing down SamuelTsao. And just in time, che0nsu has won Samdi as well.
Yeah, probably a Whirlwind Zilliax turn here, I think, with the Warpath being picked up as well. It's not like SamuelTsao especially needs to hold on to the Whirlwind anymore.
And just don't mess about.
Right,
That's the way I view it. Like, there's a Light Warden on the board, just kill it. You can
Just
clear the
kill it.
board. So SamuelTsao, he's going for the Armagadillo here, which is sturdy. He has seen Silence come out of che0nsu,
Buff
so it's
Zilliax.
fairly sturdy. It does buff the Zilliax, as you said. So this isn't by any means a horrible play, But personally, I always try to just keep playing the board against Priest.
Of course, it looks like it's making che0nsu deviate from the Light Warden at all, which makes sense given that he can actually kill off the 4/7 now, which is a pretty big deal. Oh, well, there we go. Guaranteed Restless Mummy, guaranteed board clear. The game continues as it would.
Maybe not for long though, because this is a little bit backbreaking for che0nsu, I think.
Yeah. He's got, if he can pick himself up a decent card like Circle of Healing, I suppose, maybe we can then start to see some nonsense happening with the Northshire Clerics.
It's so many turns in advance though, isn't it? Because it can't be done now.
Yeah.
So it means minimum next turn if... But how does he damage his minions? Both pyros are gone.
I'm still figuring that part out.
He like, give me a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess to a certain extent this Town Crier being on the board's a good thing. You know, maybe he gets to like trade Cleric heal.
It's kind of annoying though here with the Von Samdi unable to be properly dealt with. Because if he brawls and misses, that's like the lose scenario. That's how he potentially ends up not winning this game.
Right, what about
So
if he
what's the
just...
safest play?
What about if he just plagues?
He's already seen Amit, which is good news. So even if che0nsu were to go super wide on the board, Brawl is able to clear everything off.
Or probably Warpath. You know 3 out of 4 cards in che0nsu's hand are 1-drops.
So would you
Like,
like
how
to
much
see
health
just
can he really have, you know?
trade, Plague, and then Acolyte? You probably actually wouldn't even play the Acolyte because you don't want to allow che0nsu to damage his board.
What about just Whirlwind Plague? Is it that bad? How many more turns do you think this game has if you just clear? Whirlwind Plague, and then there's like Warpaths or Ziliacs that turn after to deal with the final push. I don't like leaving this up.
Yeah, I feel like leaving anything damaged on board is kind of a recipe for disaster.
Like honestly, what would the draw have to be
Yeah.
if che0nsu had just the board was completely empty this turn? There's nothing,
Yeah.
right? Because the pyros are gone. It would have to be a Psycho Pump into, say, Powered Shield into a Circle of Healing, right? That is literally what it would have to be, and the pump would have to res a pyro.
Yeah.
I think that is a big ask, so I think I would have cleared the board.
And now we're looking at potentially Circle of Healing into Silence, Inner Fire, Ethel. Like
He's only played one, right?
There are outs for che0nsu. He's only played one.
One Silence this game.
What did he play on?
He played it, you know, to clear the board earlier.
Okay, yeah.
So he's still got one left.
Got one left
so
in
he's
the deck.
got a Silence left.
There
I
is
think
an out for lethal now.
Quickly.
I think SamuelTsao was playing with fire a little bit here.
Instead, he goes for the trade for the more likely outcome that he doesn't draw lethal on the top. That's getting dangerously close.
Would have had him.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, because he would only be
drawn
able to
that
play one.
much.
So.
Yeah. Not bad though.
Very not bad.
This game
indeed.
could have not looked like this. There is going to be the Whirlwind Plague option, but now suddenly there is Psycho Pump,
Yep.
Extra Arms, Double Divine Spirit, and an Inner Fire. So che0nsu is in the game, and I honestly feel like it's because SamuelTsao held the door open for him in this one. I don't understand. If you just clear the board, 3
Yeah.
of his cards are 1-drops that don't draw cards.
Because the
If
other
nothing's damaged.
I completely agree with you. The other thing, like, even to pile on more evidence or more factors in support of that line of thinking, is that if SamuelTsao had just cleared the board, or even just gone trade Plague, whatever it was, there's nothing damaged on board is the main part, and nothing able to be damaged, that means basically nothing gets developed, because he knows his hand is full of clerics and sidekicks, and if he wants to develop that, you just clear the board,
Great,
and
yeah,
you've won the
yeah,
game.
exactly,
And
exactly.
if he doesn't develop, which is the much more likely scenario, you play
Also
Dr.
great,
Boom.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you play
Yeah.
Dr. Boom, you still have Ziliacs in hand, you still have other removal options.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like SamuelTsao definitely gave him an option here. che0nsu is jumping on it as well. Like with the way che0nsu's been playing, can't give him an inch because he will take that mile.
The end begins.
Oh, okay. So he just should pass, right? Should he pass?
What can go wrong? A Mega
The
Devastator? What are we looking at there? Does SamuelTsao even run it? He does not. No Devastators.
Brawl, but then
I think if you brawl and the 4-5 survives, you're still very happy though.
I guess you're taking a 2 out of 3 instead of a 50.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with this because che0nsu knows he's approaching the final push here. If this doesn't get there,
It's final form.
exactly. But of course,
What now?
SamuelTsao does have the clear, I believe, in Warpath, Plague, Warpath, which is a huge deal to be able to clear this off. Absolutely massive.
Is he going to do it though? With 2 silences gone, he might be tempted for Tomb Warden.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
I would not. I would not like that.
I've got a funny feeling Tomb
Right.
Warden's going to hit the board.
That feels like it's incredibly wrong.
Okay.
Yes. I like it.
Tomb Warden. What? Okay.
I would actually hate that play.
Imagine.
I cleared off the Psycho Bomb. What do you expect?
Yeah,
Makes
what?
the
I
second one
removed the
worse.
minion from the board.
What do you want from me, guys? Make your mind up.
So now does this have to just be the sidekick with some arms? Is that too... I mean, che0nsu's not got stuff left.
It's either that or
He's got another Blade Master,
second
right?
Psycho Bomb. Yeah. I think the out is Psycho Bomb or Blade Master.
Okay.
That's what he's going for now.
I'm so glad.
I like that over.
No. I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
going to
yeah.
say. Well, I guess it's fine.
The Tomb Warden can still rush it.
Yeah, all you're losing is the potential face damage. Oh. You would have been a genius, Derek, if you just cleared the 3-1.
He knew it all along.
I got you, friend.
Going all in on the buff here, which is weaker to Spellbreaker, of course, but I think in all honesty, the game ends if Spellbreaker comes down either way. And I'm trying to think of what's actually left in che0nsu's deck. I'm thinking
Blade
like
Master.
1 Blade Master, 1 Power Word Shield, perhaps. 2 Neff sets, I think, as well. Or as well. So yeah, there's really just nothing I think I can think about this one. But I think he really gave it the best chance he could have done there.
This game went on for way longer than I feel it should have done.
Yeah. Just a full pass because he knows he's setting up for the Blade Master out. That's his chance to get into the game. Is to go Blade Master, Neff set, double Divine Spirit in a fire. Pray there's no answer.
It's funny that there's still a chance. Because honestly, if SamuelTsao doesn't have hard removal, and if he brawls and loses, he'll lose. And if he doesn't have hard removal, the Blade Master can get big enough that he can just kill all of these minions. So that it's a tiny one, but it exists. Okay, he really wanted that to be Blade Master.
Yeah, I think even with the cards in hand, if SamuelTsao plays this perfectly, there's like literally no way he can lose this game. But
I'd take that chance.
yeah, me too. Me too. So I think it's second Blade Master, second Neff set left in the deck now, if I've been keeping track correctly. But again, we're doing it the old-fashioned way, no deck trackers here, right? So oh no, wait, sorry. Crucify me if I mess up. That's what I meant to say.
Twitch chat doesn't forget, and it definitely does not forget. So here it comes, the final last-ditch attempt from che0nsu. He's going to make an awfully large Blade Master, and hope for the best.
Oh, check me out. Is he going for the brawl?
Don't do it.
This is definitely
Just go
not
face.
this is not a brawl
Just
play.
go face.
I guarantee that brawl is the incorrect line here. I don't think SamuelTsao is going to go for the brawl.
He has, what, 14 damage?
Yes, he
7, 8,
just
9,
wins. If he just goes all face, he just
Okay,
wins.
then.
It's giving me heart palpitations. I
Derek's
swear
about
to
to
God.
lose his
my God.
mind right now. There is
It's just
never
wrong. It's
two
a
silences
locked
are
game.
gone.
It's an absolute locked
Play
game.
the Dynomatic, whack him in the face,
Yep.
click the hero power, click the weapons project if you really want. Doesn't really matter.
There we go. He knows what he's
Bro.
doing. There we go. There we go. I think we probably won.
I mean, there was a moment where I was afraid.
Me too. And then obviously you trade everything in. It's helped totally.
Knowing the last card is Nefset. You definitely trade it into lower cell tone and remove your own taunts on the board. And now, as we can see, che0nsu just does not have the time to win the game.
Yep.
If the game went on for an infinite amount of time, he could have maybe won that game.
Well, yes, it's like a kind of monkeys at a typewriter kind of scenario.
My point being that it sounds very silly, but his one minion was
yes.
probably big enough
Yeah.
to chunk through both taunts
Yeah.
and hit him in the face enough to win the game. But obviously, SamuelTsao did the correct thing and put him on a health clock, which did end up winning the game, of course. But my point just being that the minion was big, okay?
It was very, very large. I will agree with that. But for SamuelTsao, big win there because, again, the context of this matchup is definitely SamuelTsao trying to get into the top 4 to go through to the playoffs next week, whereas che0nsu, of course, guaranteed first seed. He is playing for the prize money that comes with every win and is trying to prove himself as one of the true greats of
And
Grandmasters.
just to look like a bit of a badass. There's nothing wrong with that, really, is there? Just it's the difference, right, between doing well in a tournament is great, but really blowing people's minds is what people remember, right? Look at Hunter Ace last year. It was he could have done slightly worse and still had the same result. To a certain extent,
Yeah.
right? But he didn't. He did insane things, and now he will just be remembered as one of the most insane singular years of Hearthstone I think we've seen for any one given player. And it was just ridiculous. And then, topped it off with Worlds, of course, was huge. And that's the difference between, a very good player and then a very good player or exceptional player that stands out. And that's what I think che0nsu would like to do. If he wins these 2 matches he's got this weekend, goes 12-2, and then if he qualifies to the global finals, it's just going to start the ball rolling, I think.
Yeah, for sure. He does have the potential to be the standout player from this year. If che0nsu is able to qualify through to BlizzCon, that in its own right solidifies him as one of the better players of the year.
Right.
If I'm not sure if he's attending the upcoming Masters Tour event in Bucharest or if he's planning on going to Arlington, Texas for the next year as well. But if he could get a victory in one of those as well, that would also solidify him as one of the greats.
It's honestly, for me, a lot of this, and maybe this is right or wrong across most of the players, but a lot of this is more just less about what's happening in this moment and more about the legacy plays, right? And like that's what you want. If next season we kick off the season with saying che0nsu lost 2 matches of Hearthstone in a whole season last time.
Oh yeah.
What's he gonna do this season? Like that's a better intro and thing to be discussed than going, I suppose someone 7-7.
Yeah.
Good, but right down the line, right?
Yeah,
of course you want to be
You wanna
che0nsu in
stand
that
out.
situation. But it's all coming down to the ever-dreaded priest mirror.
Yeah, sorry, due to the way the our viewing situation is set up, whenever I'm looking at Raven having a conversation with him, I can see nothing of what's happening, so I didn't catch the mulligans there. But I think both of these players have a comparable starting hand. The inner fire for che0nsu, I think, is what maybe tips it slightly into advantage for him.
Ooh.
And that Pearl Word Shield tips it significantly into the lead for him.
And I've asked you this before, but this is to the extent that you want to inner fire in this matchup, right? You will
yes.
there was a good heal option. There was other, he could have played more minions. He could have tried to do something else. But it really is just if you can inner fire and kill their minion, you do it.
I think anything else would have been a horrendous play, in my opinion. Obviously, the punish is available on this turn for che0nsu in the silence, which was now found for SamuelTsao. But honestly, if they're spending a card from their hand just to put it back to where it was,
It's still not a bad minion, is it?
Exactly, yeah. It's a 2/3. You can still get healing it with the Nefset as well.
Yeah, but it's a 2/6.
2/6, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because its health is not any form of buff. It's actually just its core
is a
health. It just
2/6.
takes damage. It's just a 2/6. Yeah. Must. I think you have to, right? Trade silence for the inner fire.
Yeah, if you don't silence here, the game ends.
You can't. So the reason as well is you can just see right before the silence hit, SamuelTsao would be playing a minion of powered shield to just get farmed. And you just can't afford that. You can't be playing minions into equal minions and then losing those trades in this matchup.
Interesting that che0nsu to go with the Nefeset, the Blade Master instead of the Nefeset Light Warden. I guess the fact that it lost Taunt is quite a big deal that I wasn't actually thinking about because it no longer protects the Light Warden.
Right.
So this is fair enough.
And also there's
This is fair enough.
kind of a payoff either way, right?
True.
Neither of these minions die on board,
Yeah.
which is good. If both of them live, well, that Nefeset is just a god. If one of them lives, it's still good. And if one of them lives and one of them doesn't, it means that, say, the Blade Master's been traded into, that's 4 damage.
Right,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's probably a lot of SamuelTsao's injured Tolvid's health, which means that it can likely be traded into the turn after.
Yeah, I mean, I like this play a lot from che0nsu. It's always just kind of jarring when you have another play in your mind and another player plays another play so quickly. You're like, what are they getting that I'm missing? But yeah, I think also just the Psycho Pump as well, with now either of these two minions dying.
Those are 2 pretty good Psycho Pump.
Insane.
You could argue, like, even 2 of the
In
best,
the
right?
light's name.
In terms of just overall
game.
game value.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, if you could Psycho Pump at 1 Sam,
And Amit
great,
at 1 Sam.
but you can't on this turn, so it doesn't matter.
So voice in my head, shut up. You're not wanted here.
It's going to be the, maybe not right now, but it could be the freshest of Blade Masters if the pump hits it pretty well. And the draw, was that? Still, you see the value. che0nsu could have gone for a guaranteed Blade Master with Reborn, and it chose not to clear some of the board off.
And I think I liked it. It's, again, the recognition that both of these players have played very strong respect to, in my opinion, correctly so, is high attack minions have to be cleared off, because especially when it's a Tolvi or a Blade Master, they get healed back up, and you're just getting value traded, the game ends. There is no comeback.
If you think about it as simple as their 1 card is killing like 3 of yours,
That's it, yeah.
that's just not good.
The maths does
like
not add up in your
that's
favour.
just wrong.
I must consider.
There we go. Pretty good if my mic's in front of my mouth instead of over my head, isn't it? Look at this turn now. SamuelTsao is probably going to try and keep this Warden alive somehow, but it doesn't feel great, does it? Because now if this Blade Master comes down, one of the 2 gets traded into just straight away.
That was a tough turn, man. And allowing the Northshire Cleric to just be value traded here feels horrible. I was honestly starting to lean towards the injured Blade Master, but then the problem is if you go Blade Master and you're not playing Cleric, they probably clear up both your minions so nothing's left damage. I think the play was probably actually to go Blade Master there, because with Pyromancer and Cleric in hand, there's a decently high chance that something broken could start to happen. And given that SamuelTsao is clearly starting to fall into the the losing position in this game, he's on the back foot, not the back seat. He needed something miraculous to happen, and I get the feeling that Pyromancer and Cleric maybe was the miraculous thing that could have happened.
Right now, though, whether it's the back seat or the back foot, SamuelTsao is in a rough spot, because I feel like anything he does, although in isolation look like decent plays, we just know that it's just not going to be enough, because it's like for every decent play SamuelTsao has, just because of the board state, it means that che0nsu just has a better one every single turn, at least for now, and I don't really see a way out of it, to be honest.
Psycho Pump can res Tolvid, but it's kind of getting to the point where high health is not even that important anymore. You really just want high attack in this situation for both of these players.
I got you,
Because
friend.
otherwise you're just getting value traded. Which is the, I'm saying a lot, but being value traded is just the last thing you want.
This Nefeset as well means that he is going to be able to just buff up this, heal up, should I say, this Blade Master.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Yeah. It was a good trade from SamuelTsao to take out the Reborn side of it. But the fact that he can't like jump on it and just kill it off because it's a 4-1 now is just, feels bad.
So interesting what a difference it makes that Reborn has a 1 health damage version
Instead of a 1 health.
A 1 health version of the minion,
Now with the help of the extra arms means that these trades can happen as well.
Is now.
Filth. Absolute filth.
Love it.
Oh my god.
Well,
This is a res cleric kind of attack.
Hey, I got you, friend.
would it even matter though?
I don't think so,
I don't think it would matter.
but it was a chance.
Yeah, the problem with cleric in situations like this is you got to remember you always need 2 spells.
We could have just gone circle there and drawn 2 cards. and
Yeah, I
maybe,
guess. I guess.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's if we're looking for outs.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know what that is, right? I feel like you need to do
Me neither.
insane things.
Yeah.
Name.
And, well, healing up your opponent's massive Blade Master is pretty insane, depending on which side of the board you sit on, but yeah, I don't know. It's looking pretty rough, and Pyro does not cut it. It does a job of killing the Light Warden if both are played along with a Circle of Healing.
I think this is absolutely a pastime for SamuelTsao though. If he can find himself a whatever, Powered Shield, Divine Spirit, something, then possibly he can activate this board enough times with Wild Pyromancer to pull things back. But I fully agree with you that seems like a incredibly tall order. Especially as che0nsu is looking at pretty close to lethal now, I believe. I mean, there must be a lethal in here somewhere.
Yeah,
Top
it has
C
to
and
be.
Circle of Healing.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if there isn't.
Yep, that's going to heal him. He was pretty close even without all this fancy stuff anyway, and that is going to do it. And che0nsu is going to take the victory over SamuelTsao. He is now going to be, what, 11-2? Oh, it's insane. Insane.
Absolutely unbelievable. I'm trying to think back to what the best record was for APAC in the last season. Like che0nsu and Alatimo, I think che0nsu might have had... Did he have 12-2 in the end?
He might have had 12-2.
He might have had. I'm trying to think as to
I'll check in the break.
how good the records have gone, because 11-2 for che0nsu is kind of almost at unparalleled level. And if he can win his next series later on in the weekend as well, he will be looking to just be one of the best Grandmasters overall of the entire season.
Yeah, he really will, and unfortunate there for SamuelTsao, but I feel like the Priest Mirror is always a tough one. I'm not sure whether that Cleric play was the right play to get the job done, because it was just Cleric draw 1 card, guarantee it to die the following turn, which is always a big sacrifice that you don't really want to make with only 1 card being drawn, and an unfortunate game in the Shaman one. But che0nsu, again, I feel like piloted his decks quite well, and just got out ahead and stayed ahead, I think.
Yeah, that does make things very, very difficult now for SamuelTsao to qualify through, because later on in the day, he was at 6 wins, and the other 2 players at 6 wins were Tyler and Flurry, both of whom are playing each other later today. So one of them has to go up to 7 wins, which means the players he was even with, he's going to fall behind one of them there.
Right.
So for SamuelTsao, I think if he wins his other match, there's maybe still possibilities that he can get through. But for the most part, he pretty much needed to win that game to have a good shot of going through.